Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Excalibur Data Systems Roundtable Tech Talk. I am Mike Fuson. This is part of our extended Tech Talk series with our partner, CG4. And today I have Will Barrowes from CG4 joining me. Will, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's always great to be here.
Yeah, it's always great to get together and talk asset tracking. In our couple of episodes, we were kind of giving folks a primer on what is asset tracking. And so we thought we'd dive a little bit deeper, and we've said, okay, it's putting tags on things and being able to track them and know where they are. But why is it so important for organizations? And I think one of the things we've talked about, we've heard from so many of our customers and prospective customers we were talking to as we went into the pandemic, that are kind of seeing the gap in their asset tracking solutions. Because when you really think about it, a laptop can be tracked in multiple ways. It can have a barcode or RFID tag on it, but it also probably checks in with some sort of discovery tool. So you know it's out there. You maybe know who logged into it. You know something about it. But with the pandemic and so many people, everybody for a while there, having to work from home, assets that were originally in the office were brought home. And so you had a monitor or two, or a docking station, or any level of accoutrements that were brought home. And as I've seen, one of our customers is starting their back to the office process, and they've said, everything that we know you have at home, keep there. We've got new stuff set up in the office for you to come back to. And so all of a sudden now you're talking about, do we actually know all the assets that left the office, right? Monitors aren't brutally expensive. They're a couple $100, but you get it as a bigger organization, you have potentially tens of thousands of monitors. That adds up to a pretty decent chunk of change that, your folks in your accounting department probably are going to want to know, well, how many of these things do we have out there? Where are they? They're not a wired keyboard that's $19.99 that you might toss and just buy a new one. It's an inventory item, just a part. But these are rather more expensive equipment. So that's one of the drivers for a lot of organizations in really building tighter asset tracking, is a lot of times is driven by accounting practices. So talk to me a little bit about what happens with those accounting practices. I know there's depreciation and other stuff, but I mean, you're more the expert on this than I am.
Well, there's just accountants and auditors. They want to have a warm and comfortable feeling that we're taking care of the assets. We're like the custodians of the fiduciaries of all this equipment that the company has. And if we're not doing a good job with our arms around all those assets, knowing who has them or where they are, it gives us an uncomfortable feeling. And we probably have some regulations that we might need to be responding to the auditors, to show our level of care. And there's a lot of financial things that go along with tracking your assets, such as the depreciation you mentioned. I mean, if the asset is no longer being used, you need to get your asset schedule correct, so that you don't have this unnecessary depreciation. Or another thought that was crossing my mind is, a lot of assets are leased, and so if you don't know where those assets are and it's time to return those leased assets, that's costing you money. And things like that just give you an unsettled feeling if you're not paying attention to your assets.
Right. And as we've talked about, in many cases, we always think of IT assets, but there's kind of the ancillary IT assets that have become more of a thing as a result of the pandemic. We're here recording videos. Most folks are on online meetings, and for a lot of organizations, we want to be able to see each other's smiling faces. May not have pants on, but I've got a shirt on, right, type of thing. I'm able to participate in the meeting and we can see each other. Well, for a lot of us, that was an investment in a better webcam, which many of us just kind of use what was built into the computer because that's all we really needed for the occasions, the occasional use. Now, for the last 2 years, these things have been getting used a lot. And then you get into other items. You and I were talking about one of our customers. We were talking about a use case where they have a lot of the portable speakerphones. Jabra makes them. There's a bunch of manufacturers that make them. I know the Jabra one because that's the one I have. And it can plug into the computer, it can connect via Bluetooth, but it gives you a speakerphone for a small work group. And we had a number of clients that one of our clients had built a new building, and they were trying to decide for some of the smaller workspaces, the collaboration rooms, do they want to spend money and put a bunch of equipment in there, or do they want these portable devices to be able to be moved around as needed? Folks that use these spaces a lot have them, or there's something that can be checked out. Well, they're small, they're easily lost. I lost mine in my bag. I was looking for it because I was, gonna have a meeting. I'm like, oh, the puck would be great for this. I couldn't find it anywhere. Finally found it when I looked in the bag the third time, buried under something else because it's small and it's lightweight and it's in a black neoprene case like everything else in there. But these are not inexpensive assets. They're $300 each, and so kind of probably want to know who has a hold of those. Or as we've done with CG4, check-in and check-out processes, where they could be checked out to you for a period of time. At least who should have it, right? And when people are now coming and saying, well, you've got your folks that control that loaner inventory. They go, we need more. Well, where are the 30 we already have? People holding on to them and not checking them back in, or it lets you build processes around that. So you're not unnecessarily buying things. And that's where we see so often clients get eaten alive is, you've got a 4K webcam. Well, and that thing was $300. And you've got a puck, and that's $300. And you've got a wireless keyboard, and that's $100. And every time you've got to go buy another one, it starts to add up very, very quickly. And there's budgets that have to be maintained. A lot of us are with COVID, most of us as organizations are paying a much closer attention to those bottom line type of items. But because we've had to invest so much into making so our employees can work from home. I think about silly things like this. I've got my little microphone that I use to do these recordings, right? And it's a $50-$60 microphone. It's not super expensive. Well, you've got 20 or 30 of those because there are people that are doing recordings or would prefer a microphone over going over the microphone in the computer or using a headset. You have to think about the different things that people use. They may I think about these headsets. I was looking at these the other day, Will, and what I was paying for these pre-pandemic, they're almost twice the price now. Post-pandemic, right? Because there's supply and demand. Everybody now needs these, where before, somebody stick their AirPods in for the two, the once or twice a week that they needed to get on an online meeting. Now we're in these things all the time, and we're looking for comfort gear, and these things are expensive, and they add up very, very quickly.
That is something that we very commonly hear from our customers, is that they know they've got some of that stuff, in some storeroom somewhere, and they just don't know where it is. And so they end up buying more of whatever. And it's a really common story that we hear.
Right. And the technology changes so rapidly. You don't want to have 60 unopened boxes of the old version of the webcam that the same money you spent on those could get the newer version of it that's better and has autofocus or whatever it is. You want to try to keep those inventories and those controls tightly in there. And just as we have a laptop refresh cycle, I think about I'm old enough that I go back to the days of CRTs, right? Our younger folks that are watching this, or what's a CRT? Well, you think your little flat screen monitor in front of you, and then add on, especially if you're running a 20 or 19-inch 19-inch or bigger monitor, we used to have a big tube that stuck off the back of that, and it could go a foot or more. And so, the way desks were designed back in the day had an impact on the fact that, well, we're going to have this big tube. We don't want it sitting on we don't want to be sitting on the edge of the desk because it's hitting the wall. And those have pretty much gone away, and we're into flat screen devices now. But these are more temperamental electronics. The tube screens, those things you'd have to drop the thing to get it to break.
Yeah, and if you wanted to move it from one desk to another, just lift it the knees, because those things were not light.
Oh, absolutely. But now we've got flat screen monitors. Most of us are used to multiple monitors now, so you've got these extra things, and it all starts to add up very, very quickly. And you're trying to maintain your inventory, and prices are constantly changing, features and functionality are constantly changing. Managing, like you said, lease situations. Okay, we've got all this stuff leased, and this needs to now go back. Where is everything? That's everything that's included in that lease. So all of those scenarios are things that make having a solid asset tracking strategy in place drives. And CG4 provides for all of that.
Yeah, one thing that's crossing my mind right now, Mike, is some of our customers are very large, billion-dollar revenue customers that have just experienced a lot of growth, and tracking the assets has not been the top priority. And next thing you know, they're this largely successful company, and they have no great processes tracking their assets. And they're getting on top of it, but it can happen very easily, whether you're a small organization or a big one.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at us as a small organization, and because of the nature of what we do, we have a lot of technology that's leveraged that the average business might not be affording to every. Most of our consultants, for example, have a portable monitor that they're able to travel with. Lightweight, wow. Thin, right? Because before the pandemic, we spent a lot of time on customer sites, and so this was a necessary piece of equipment, and those are not inexpensive, and so who all has one? Where are they? You start to add the stuff up, and all of a sudden, a single individual has $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of company assets, and that's just their IT stuff. And they've got a company cell phone, which cell phones are $1,000 or more now, and other things that have been assigned to them. So the ability to be able to track who has these becomes so much more important. So, Will, thanks for joining me today and kind of sharing your thoughts on why asset tracking is so important and how we're seeing customers use it. And I look forward to our next chat.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
And for those of you that are watching, reach out to the team here at Excalibur. We'd love to share CG4 with you and get you together with Will and the team at CG4, and we can show you how asset tracking and CG4 can make a difference for your organization. We'll see you soon, everyone.